And Damian, talking to Anna there, and she's had a dreadful experience. She's been travelling for 2 days. Why is it when she gets to a country like here, like Poland, she's been waved through without any really significant visa checks, but were she to come to the UK, it wouldn't be the same case?
Well, look, first of all of our hearts go out to these families, mothers, children who have had these extraordinary, difficult journeys in the most horrible circumstances. And look, our country is absolutely stepping up to the plate, as other friends and neighbours across Europe are doing, to make sure that in this time of their greatest need, we are there for the Ukrainian people. And we've, as you know, Jen, we're creating 2 big new routes to enable people fleeing from the conflict in Ukraine to be welcomed in our country and supported, and that is absolutely the right thing to do.
But they still have to go through the visa processing, don't they? And there are, countries like France. I'm just wondering what concerns we have that countries like Ireland and France don't have.
So, we're putting in place an absolutely expedited process to do that. We've got application centres being set up, close to where people are, rather than them having to go necessarily elsewhere. We're staffing up our application centres right across Europe because, of course, once people from Ukraine have Schengen rights to move into a country like Poland or the other, or some of the other nearby countries, but then they can also move through the Schengen area. Just as a matter of course, that's not to do with the current conflict, but just anyway. So they may come to application centres elsewhere. We want to make sure that we have the warmest, most supportive welcome possible. And so things like this, the extended family programme, which we have, which for which hundreds of thousands of people, a couple of 100,000 is the estimate may be eligible for, but also this community sponsorship route where local groups, organisations, churches, local authorities, individuals can support an individual, a family coming from Ukraine. It could be somebody they know, but it may be that they don't, of course, know anybody in the country, and then we can match them up. This will be up and running in a few weeks' time. Can match them up to somebody who needs that support to make sure we're absolutely maximising what we're able to do.
Why is it taking a few weeks?
So just to be clear, it's not. So the existing family,
ready in a few weeks' time.
That's one particular aspect, Jane. The existing family system is up and running now. The extended family system is going to be tomorrow, and then if you get to create a system to match up people from in country with families and local community organisations here, that will take a bit longer for that matching system. But we do already have, of course, a resettlement community support programme that's operated, for example, to welcome people from the Syrian conflict in the past. So we'll be able to do that. We'll be able to do that quickly. But there is absolutely no intention of any kind of delay here. People need help now. We're conscious there are very large numbers of people in Poland and Romania and elsewhere. We also are giving support to the region. That's very important as well to our friends, for example, in Poland, to make sure there is humanitarian assistance. But we do recognise, of course, that people need that. They need to be able to get away. Poland and others can't deal with it all on their own. Absolutely not. We are there, and the other countries in Europe are there to make sure the support is in place for those families who've been through this most appalling time.
So do you know how many visa applications have been submitted and been processed since last Wednesday?
So so far, a relatively small number. I can't give you an exact number. A relatively small number, but we expect that to grow rapidly. So we're stepping up the capacity.
Relatively small. Are we talking hundreds, thousands, or tens?
The capacity we're putting in place now, we're very soon up to capacity for 6,000 a week, but we'll keep that under review, and if it needs to increase, it will increase. That's just in the immediate region. There's also, of course, application centres across Europe, and as I say, because of in the Schengen area, because people will be able to move, and some will, We also expect there to be applications made in some of those other centres as well. So we will absolutely make sure.
But you must know roughly how many Ukrainian people have granted visas in the last week. I mean, I know you can't give me an exact figure, but are we talking a handful or are we talking a few hundred?
Look, it's happening all the time and changing all the time. We'll be growing all the time. What I'm telling you is, what I can tell you is like the number of appointments that are available in a normal circumstance. 890 appointments are available in a week in that region. We are growing that already. It's been to 3,000. It's going to soon be at 6,000. So that gives you an order of magnitude, kind of week by week. But that's just in the immediate region. There can be applications further afield as well. And most importantly, Jane, if I may, we will keep reviewing that. So we make sure that the capacity is there. So we're not keeping people waiting unnecessarily. We can progress with this quickly and help people to get on in their lives, bearing in mind that it's still going to be hugely difficult circumstances, of course, when they do arrive in our country. And that's why things like the family support links and these community sponsorship programs are really, really valuable, because they help people to make sure that children can, are well settled in education, to be looking for work or to navigate the benefit system. All of these things are an important part of the overall welcome.
They are, but it does seem to me that we're talking now about the biggest movement of people this century across Europe, and there are hundreds of thousands pouring into all of these countries. And from what you're saying, the UK haven't yet processed more than a few hundred. It's as complex for Poland and Romania and all of these other countries, isn't it, as it is for the UK?
Yeah. So these two new programmes are just starting. As I say, the extended family programmes will start from tomorrow, and the community resettlement sponsorship programme that will take a wee while longer, for good reason, because you've got to set these things up in place. Correctly, and make sure the safeguarding is there and so on, to make sure it works for everybody. But my commitment is absolutely that we will make sure we can work through the people who want to apply to this country. And this is it is a big offer. I mean, you talk about hundreds of thousands. There are hundreds of thousands of people who will be eligible for these for this extended family program and the new community sponsorship program. It is a big volume offer, and rightly so in these circumstances, when all of us around the world have to and are pulling together to make sure we are there to stand with Ukraine in this hardest possible set of circumstances that people find themselves in, these terrible traumas that children are going through, separated from a parent and so on, to make sure that we can make that process as at least as smooth as it can be in these circumstances.
We've just had a bit of breaking news. Some reports that there's been a big U-turn at the International Paralympic Committee, saying yesterday that Russian and Belarusian athletes could compete, but not under the national flag, now saying that they aren't going to compete. We haven't been able to confirm that as yet. But what would your reaction be if that was the case?
Well, as you say, that clearly is breaking news, because you've just broken it to me. I didn't know that. If that is true, I would welcome that. We have made the decision that the committee made. I know these are difficult circumstances, but I think it is incredibly important that the strongest possible message, and the committee talked about having put in place the strongest possible measures. I don't think that was the strongest possible set of measures. What you've just described is the strongest possible set of measures. And so if that is true, I welcome that.
Let's just briefly, before we leave you, come back to the situation on the ground in Ukraine. When you look at what we think has happened in Kherson and what is happening in places like Mariupol, Russia seems to have this policy now of trying to cut off towns and villages and almost starve the people out. Do you think that this is what Russia is trying to do? And if so, how concerned are you about this tactic?
Look at how concerned I'm. We're all desperately concerned. I mean, this is a ruthless invading force. I mean, when it comes to tactics and military strategy, I'm not going to second guess what Vladimir Putin, what he might be thinking, what might be in his head. But we do know that this is a ruthless force, and extremely, obviously imminently right now for Ukraine, but actually dangerous for the wider region, for Europe and the world. And that's why it's so important. And I mean, the bravery, the tenacity that we've seen from the people of Ukraine, my God, we have all been taken aback. And it is so important that we do everything we can to support them in what they're doing, and to make sure, and this is where all the sanctions and we've got the economic crime bill, transparency and enforcement coming through on Monday in Parliament. It's why all these things are so important, to make sure that we absolutely make the regime hurt.
Okay, Damian Hinds, thank you very much, and thank you very much for joining us this morning on Sky News.